How do you take a picture of a flower? Well, it's exactly what I'm going to try to do in this video. In my local camera club, they're having a photography competition on taking pictures of flowers, and I thought I'd come out this evening and try to take a photo of a flower, and I'd go through the process that I'm using to take a picture of a flower with my Olympus EM1 Mark II, and hopefully you can get some pointers if you're interested in this subject. The nice thing about taking photos of flowers is that they're really abundant, especially this time of year in late spring, early summer. They're pretty much out everywhere. And you can find flowers pretty much everywhere you look. Obviously in your own garden, in public spaces, in parks, and you can even come to a place like this, which is a nature area. It's an old quarry. Or if you're brave enough, you can even find lots of flowers on the roadside. So what is the secret of taking pictures of flowers? Well, I looked online before I came out, and the general consensus was from most of the websites that I read said that you really need a macro lens. You need a macro lens to get tight in on the flowers and take a really nice, crisp, zoomed in shot. Where that is a good thing, you can do that. Unfortunately, I don't have a macro lens. I've got a 45mm f1.8 lens on my Olympus, which you consider my portrait lens. And I think this is a nice lens to use to take a picture of a flower, because I think flowers need to be thought about as if you're taking a portrait, because you're taking a picture of one single thing or a number of small things, and you really want to isolate that flower in your picture, and having a portrait lens will help you do that. I think there's two main ways of getting a photo of a flower. There's the view from the top looking straight down on the flower, and there's also the view from the side, so you're side on looking sort of at flower level. And I think generally they're the two main compositions, or two main views of a flower, I should say. You might have loads of different ones. You might completely disagree with me. You might say there's tons of different ways of trying to take a photo of a flower. Well, I'm going to try a few different ways, and let's see which ones come out. Before I take the pictures of flowers, I wondered, if you're enjoying my content, I would really appreciate if you would subscribe to the channel. It would be a massive boost to me, a massive boost to the channel if you did. And if you have already, thank you very much. As I mentioned, there's two ways to do this. There's one looking down onto the flower to try to get the whole flower head, or the other option is to look side on. And I think when you look side on, you really need to get down low with the flowers. You don't want to take a picture at eye level, because that's boring and it doesn't look very attractive in my view. So I'm going to get down with these flowers, these bramble flowers here that are just beside me, and try to take the picture of these now. For this image, I've got these bramble flowers, pretty much a square shot of these bramble flowers. I've got an f1.8 because I want to separate the background, because I want these flowers to stand out. They are moving a lot in the wind, and that's given me a 1/500th of a second shutter speed, which will help to try to freeze the frame and freeze the motion. The only trouble with using f1.8, what it's going to do, it's going to focus on the flower that I'm mainly focusing on, and it won't be front to back sharp. It'll only be sharp for the bit that I'm focusing on, which is a shame. And because I've got a cluster of flowers, it's not really going to show the whole flowers in sharpness. But I'm going to take this photo. I've not got the timer on. I'm just focusing somewhere on these flowers. I'll try and focus on that flower head there. It moves so much, it's difficult. And I'm just going to take that shot. And the background's blurry. The only trouble with this picture is the background here is really nice and soft and blurry. But because that's got all white bits around the outside, it's going to detract from the image of the flower. So what I'm going to try to do is move the camera around and try to take a different shot. This image is on exactly the same batch of flowers. This time I've turned around and faced the opposite direction. The sun's shining in the background, and I've got a bit of an orange part of the image at the top right. But because the flowers are now coming in, or they are coming in from the left-hand side, you're more likely to follow trace your eye across to the flowers. You'll end up on this orange section. I'm going to take this anyway. I've got the 45mm lens on, and I've gone with 1/640th of a second, really fast again. So this picture will just capture the flowers still, no motion blur. and I'll just make sure I focus on the right part of the flower. I'll take that shot, and that's a much nicer, creamier shot without all those white distractions in the background. In my view, the background is as important as the flower itself. If you've got a really messy background, a really untidy background that distracts the eye from the image, the viewer of your image is going to look at those untidy bits, is going to look at those bright sections in your image, those extra bits that probably don't need to be there, and it'll distract their eye from the thing you want them to look at, which is the flower. Equally, in a photography competition, if you're taking a photo and it's got lots of elements in the image that not really adding anything to the story, then you're going to get marked down as well. So really, you want to be having a background that's going to focus the eye on the subject and not have any other distracting elements. Ideally, you want a background to be as soft as you can so that it's out of focus, so the viewer is focusing on what you want it to look at. That flower picture I've just taken was by no means competition quality, but I wanted to use it as a demonstration that really the important thing is the background, and that you can change your position. You don't have to go for the same shot. Move around the flower, look for the best composition, look for the right thing with the right background, and that will help you improve your photography. I've come up to the top of the quarry because I wanted to find a flower that's on its own, because I wanted to try and tell the story of the flower. I wanted to tell the story like you do in any photography. Try to find out, what's the flower doing there? How did it get there? Why is it on its own? And I'll set the camera up and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. So I hope you can see this. I've got my camera as low as I can so you can see the viewfinder. Now, as you can see from this image, I've got the flower on the right hand third, or I will have in a second. I'll just move that around a little bit. And I've got all these nice little tufts along here and these rocks all forming part of the scene. Potentially this section on this left here is really not doing anything, so I might crop this into a square, but I've got the little flower on its own, all nice and looking pretty, all on its own, and that's telling me the story. What is it doing there? Why is it on its own? I've got a really lovely soft background as well, all on this sort of rocks. These little stones give me a lovely soft background, and isolating that lovely yellow flower. It's 1/800th of a second. I've gone for f1.8, really as wide as I can, just to soften the background as much as I can. I'll take that shot. And what I might actually do is experiment with my aperture and maybe stick it up to 4 to see if that helps. I'll slow the speed down a little bit. I've got my camera on the Joby because I think it needed to be as low as I can get it. I didn't really want to put the camera on the floor. I think that's nice. What I might actually do is just turn it around a little bit so that I can get I have to turn it over like this a little bit so I can get a couple of flowers in the image. I'll just refocus on that flower. So I've got that flower in the image, and I've also got another little flower in the background just to give you a bit of balance of the image. Let's give that a try. I'm going to put this down to 1.8. Speed it up a bit. There you are. Let's go with that. And that puts this flower in soft focus. This is the sharp bit. This is the bit we want to look at. These little bits of grasses, whatever they are, they're still in the image. Let's see how that looks. I might try and take a portrait shot too, but I think that could be a nice shot. And although I said I don't have a macro lens, I do have the 12 to 40 f2.8 lenses is broken, but it still takes pictures. So what I've done, I've set the camera up and I've focused on the flower itself. I've got as close as I can, really close. I'll be able to crop this up so I can, if I wanted to put it in as a portrait lens, I could crop that up nicely. So I'm going to take that shot now. That's at f2.8. I'm going to turn it slightly sideways to get the flower on the third. I'm going to take that picture now, and I've got all these nice grasses in the side just to give it a bit of balance. I might just tip it up a little bit just to get those grasses in the image. And I'm just going to refocus this get that grasses in the image. I am on f2.8, so it's quite a short, a wide aperture. It's the widest it can go. I'll see what that's like. Hopefully that comes out like a nice shot. I'm hopeful that image comes out really nice. Let's see how it turns out. The sun's come out now, which is another really important factor, not only in flower photography, but all photography, because it's really important to have the light in your image. Now, the challenge with taking pictures of flowers in bright sunlight is that they'll make too much harsh contrast. You don't want that. You want a nice, soft, diffused light, not harsh shadows, not harsh contrast, because it'll take all of the beauty away from the flower, and you've got dark lines and light lines, and it really won't look nice. But what I might try to do, now that the sun's out, the sun's setting and it's going a bit more orange, I might try to take a shot looking into the sun and get the sunlight in the background, a nice orange glow. I don't know how I'm going to do, but I'll try to take that shot. The challenge with doing that is that the flowers are generally facing towards the sun, and because the sun's over there, it's in the west, the flowers are going to be away from me. But if I can find one that's looking in the right direction, I'll try and take it. This bramble flower is a really good example of what I mean by trying to get, there's too much contrast. I'm trying to get a picture of the flower and the sun shining through it. It looks nice from here, but I'm not sure if it's going to make the perfect image. I've gone for f2.8 again, because that's the sort of the lowest this lens can go. I've still got the 1240 on, so I'm just going to take that shot. It's giving me 1/400th of a second. And I'm just going to take that shot. Look, I take a couple because it's floating, flapping about in the sun. And we can see now when it stops, when I can get a picture, it's moving all the time. Just the shadows, the harshness on the flower, it's a bit too much. I'm going to move it around a little bit. See, it's just too bright, it's too harsh, and it really doesn't look terribly good. I'm going to try and bring it in a bit closer. Just trying to get a little bit closer to the flower, because this lens can handle it, because it's really amazing, this lens, even though it's broken, unfortunately for me. But it still works, even though it doesn't work really well. There you go. Yeah, hopefully you can still see that. And that gives you a really lovely soft background, but the flower really doesn't look very good at all. I have to admit, there's not a huge amount of flower diversity variation in this wildlife park, in this wasteland. So what I'll try to do, I'll go somewhere else, quickly have a look somewhere else, see if I can find another flower, and I'll show you the picture. It's typical. I was just about to go out of this nature area and find a different sort of flower, because I couldn't find many variety here, and then I stumbled across these daisy looking flowers that looks like they've got a nice bit of light on them, and I think they might take a nice shot. So I'm going to give this a try and see what these come out like. I've set the camera up. I've got the 1240 again. I think I've got it at 40mm, and the problem I have with this shot, it's a lovely shot, it's a really nice flower, it looks like some kind of daisy, I don't know what sort of flower it is. I've gone for f2.8, so I want a soft background. The trouble is, as far as the competition's concerned, I don't think the judges are like these white flowers in the background. The white flower at the bottom would be all right. This flower might be too much, so your eye is being taken away from the main subject because of all these extra white bits. But I'll take this anyway, and I'll just see how this works, how this comes up. Sometimes I have to use my finger to hold the lens, otherwise it won't come out. And then I'll just try and reposition the camera again as I did earlier to try to take a different shot. I think this is definitely a better angle, and there's no distracting sort of bokeh in the background. There's no distracting things. This is just that flower. It's got this little bit of a bit of a branch from another flower in there, but I think that's all right. That's not too distracting. It's got a little bit of white bokeh ball there. I think that's all right as well. It's not too distracting. Unfortunately, I haven't got the light, but I've taken that anyway. I'll try and sort of edit that in post-production, not too much, but I think that might look all right. May not be competition worthy though, but at least I've tried. Looks like the flowers are shutting up for the evening. It is getting a bit dim now, the light. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it gives you a little bit of an idea of some of the things to think about when you're taking a picture of a flower. Things like get down to the level of the flower. Don't just take a picture from up high. Make sure you've not got anything distracting in the background. Yeah, you definitely want a soft background, but you want to limit any other distracting elements. You want to diffuse light ideally and not have harsh shadows or harsh light in your flower, and that's really important. Ideally, if you've got a portrait lens or a long lens to use to take the shot, I used a 45mm lens or my 1240 at 40mm. And I think if you're on a micro four thirds camera, you might want to do that, or use a macro lens if you've got one. That might help to really soften the picture, soften the flower. If you have enjoyed this video, then I'd really appreciate a like. Thank you very much indeed for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheerio.